just kind of wanted to talk about a little bit about hope and what God has led us to do, especially with a focus on African American women. And I think, you know, in order to reach this specialized population, it's important that you look at the historical aspects of Black women and their experiences in order to be able to really meet their needs, you know. And even though we have advanced in some areas as far as education and independence, but still there's very much the cycle of violence and victimization that's still very evident within our relationships, within our homes, and even among our peers. And so sometimes these young women feel very lost. And even in their faith-based communities and churches, you know, they are depending on what kind of leadership that they come from or had in the past. Sometimes they become even more victimized because of the lack of knowledge of really understanding what that word means. You know, when a woman is told that she has to be submissive to her husband, and if he's abusing her, she thinks that she's disobeying God, you know, or she's not allowed to divorce because she's going to be cursed, you know, and so she feels that there is no way out, you know. I'm, you know, kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. You know, I'm locked into this bondage of this horrible relationship, but yet I have my spiritual leaders who really don't understand what I'm going through, or my own guilt, you know. And then sometimes it puts a lot of pastors and leadership in a disadvantage, because sometimes if these women come from other churches and they've been wounded by their previous pastors, they will put their current pastor in the same category, and he don't even know what's going on. He's just trying to feed her the word, but somehow she's gotten it in a misinterpretation way where she still feels victimized. So she's lost in this space, and nobody really wants to hear her understand what she's experiencing, you know. And we all like to think that this is what our families should look like, you know, the mother and the father and the child, and oh, we happy, and you know, this is, everyone desires this role model of what a family should look like. But in reality, that's not our families anymore, and you know, and even very few since the 21st century. I want to take you a look back into a little history, because as we look at our history, we're going to be in a really good position to understand how the acculturation of conditional thinking continues even today with technology that we're experiencing. And there was one reading I was doing, and Sojourner Truth is just an amazing woman. You know, in 1800s and 1851, she did a speech, said, "Am I a woman? Ain't I a woman?" You know, even then, seeking out ways to be acknowledged and recognized. And one of the speeches that she was doing, a public speech she was doing, a man came up to her and said, "Oh, you can't be a woman, because you talk like a man, and you look like a man." And she said, "Oh, I'm very much a woman." And he said, "Oh." So to humiliate her, he came and he ripped off her blouse, and her breast was revealed, and she said, "These breasts that you look at have supped many of your children, and when I couldn't even nurse my own children, you know, children that have been sold away in slavery, and I deserve just as much rights as any other woman." And we cannot ignore the struggle of the Black woman fighting for her identity and her purpose and her value in this country. And back then also, during the time when, you know, I think it was in the early 1800s, a rape of a Black woman was identified as not rape. You know, she was property. And so, believe it or not, those stigmas still follow African American women. They don't know if they've been raped or not if they know the partner. They don't know if they've been raped or not if they're married to this individual, or if it's a boyfriend or familiar, or they feel that maybe I did something to bring this on, you know. Still struggling with their value and identity. And so HOPE is an organization that wants to restore identity, purpose, and value in our women, especially our young women who now find that the best thing that they have is their bodies to yield for sexual desires or pleasures to get a relationship. Don't understand that the intelligence that they have is much more value than what they offer on their backs. But that mentality still exists, even today. Even though we've advanced in many ways, we're still very, very vulnerable. I have some photos that I had wanted to show you just to kind of tell you some of the stories, historical stories. This is actually a little girl. She's actually 13 years old. She was born in the early 1800s. The master was upset because he wanted to be with this little girl, and the mother got upset. The master's wife got upset, and she put her in a room and she went in daily to burn her. So her disfigurement is from the burns that she got on her body. And when she was found, they actually prosecuted the woman and only gave her a $5,000 fine back then, but didn't give her any type of sentence at all for what she did. This picture is of a young lady, 18-year-old young lady who was hung and beaten because she refused to sleep with her master. She chose to say no, and this is what it cost her. They beat her until the flesh came from her body. And my point is that historically, black women have been so conditioned to compromise their values, and if they stand up for it, what kind of price will they pay?